Now I got to do a video once again. Argentina, Brazil, collapsing Venezuela, social unrest. Do you realize? Did I send myself this one? Where's it at? Plane tickets. Survivor of Argentina. This is extra credit goes to the Silver Doctors on this one because I believe it was them, was able to interview, or at least Peak Prosperity was able to, Chris Martenson, and of course Silver Doctors is showing it, interview this guy that is going by the nickname Fairfall, Ferfal. I've mentioned him numerous times in my videos, and I mean some old videos as well. Survivor of Argentina hyperinflation issues urgent warning. You have to know when to leave, he says. You have to see the signs and know when to leave the country, is what he said. And he left Argentina to move, I think, to somewhere in the EU. But I remember finding his blog when it was fairly new, so this was years ago. And I was absolutely fascinated with his story. And I read it and went all over his blog, the different ones, because people would ask questions, and he'd answer some of it, get into more detail. Someone would ask something else. Just a huge line of questions. And I was like, man, this is fascinating. He was the guy I told you was on the second story of his building where he worked while this crap was going on. His country was essentially collapsing. Their dollar went from 3 to 1 with our dollar overnight when it was 1 to 1. People said, oh, well, that's okay. I've got US dollars in my bank account. So I now have 3 to 1 of Argentine pesos. Good. I actually know government just wrote a law in the middle of the night while you were sleeping that says memorandum to all banks, anybody that has a U.S. dollar-based account, whatever amount is in there, give them the equivalent amount, not the exchange rate, the equivalent amount, dollar for dollar, in their bank account. Oh, I've got 10,000 US dollars in an account over here in Argentina. You now have 10,000 pesos when you should have 30,000 pesos. That's not what happened. Sorry about your luck. That's what happened. He talks about this. I thought that was very interesting. He mentioned, people on a motorcycle, so they would just sit there and wait for someone to go in and out of a bank and just pretty much pounce on them right on the, two people, driver and a passenger on the back motorcycle, and just grab the money, grab the purse, grab whatever it was, and just take off. It was just like common. They would just sit there and stake it out. Once again, I mentioned this the other day. Where are people going to go? Where are the robbers going to go? Where are the bad guys going to go? Where the people and the money are. No, not the Federal Reserve Bank or your federal government. They're going to go to the stores. Would you like some cash back, sir? Yes, I would, because I don't want to go to the bank. It's crazy over there. Two people got robbed yesterday. I'll take some cash back today. Oh, sorry, sir. We can only give $10 cash back per customer. $10. I should be able to get up to $50. We know, but due to the crisis, I can't say that I'll get fired. Due to the interesting conditions, we've had an influx of people wanting cash back, more so than we've ever seen. So we can only give $10 cash back. I'll take it. Fine. Take the $10 cash back, whatever it is. Then the next thing you know, people are going to be waiting outside of your little Target, your Walmart, wherever, to do the same thing. So if you did what old Jay Snip before told you, keep a little cash out of the bank, precious metals in your house in a safe, hidden somewhere, whatever. You don't have to go deal with that. Now, sure, you do have to go buy some stuff. So I'm just going to make a claim, I think, because I haven't heard about this at all. I have not found one case where in any of these Spanish-speaking countries, which are currently collapsing, where there are people hanging outside of a coin dealer waiting to pounce on someone who just sold their stash of precious metals, got some cash, and is leaving. Haven't heard one of those cases yet. Just want to throw that out there. But I've heard a ton of cases of people getting robbed, going to the ATM, going to the bank, going to the grocery store, wherever it is, where these crises are happening. So he left years ago. But I remember reading this story, and I think when I read his story, he didn't leave yet. And he was talking about, he even got into the detail of, if you're a prepper or whatever you want to call yourself, and you live on a big piece of property out away from town, it takes a little while to get there. He was saying it wasn't any better out there because now you're kind of a target. Well, there's no police around here. They're all busy up there in the cities. They ain't coming way out here to deal with you. And he said the other thing was, even if you saw someone coming on your property, you knew they were going to try to rob you or do something, and you take a shot at them. Of course, there's no way you're going to say, well, I had some kind of probable cause to do so. I was scared. My life wasn't. Sir, you sniped them from 100 yards away. You're going to jail. So you literally have to let them come close, let them pull their gun on you, whatever, and then try to deal with it. And hopefully you don't shoot them first because he was reaching. I don't know. Maybe he was scratching his ass, but I thought he was reaching for a gun. Sorry, sir. You're under arrest, right? It's going to be a hell of a time to be dealing with that crap. But he made the point that living further out wasn't necessarily the greatest thing to do. And that was years ago. I can't recite exactly what he said. So let me read you this now that I've prepped you for it. And I'm going to link this site because you get to watch the video, which is 55 minutes long. I think you'll enjoy it. It's essentially an audio. And he said, and I guess this guy, I think he moved to Spain because they mentioned that there were some communications lines issues with the audio or something, and something about Spain. Anyway, here we go. Is now the time to flee the U.S.? They're slaughtering one another in the streets right now in Venezuela. For the average middle-class person in Venezuela, educated and still holding on to a good job, he needs to work 2 years, collect 2 years of wages to buy a single plane ticket in his own currency. He needs to work for 2 full years to buy one single plane ticket. He's stuck there. The problem is that he waited too long to leave. You have to know when to leave, he says. Can you imagine whatever your salary is today? Keeping in mind, middle class American, not lower class, a decent job. I'm going to say you're making $40,000 to $50,000 a year. I think that's a fair statement. 2 years of that, let's round up, let's say 50, $100,000 US to buy a freaking one-way plane ticket out of your country. And the beautiful thing is, if you had just a little tiny bit of precious metals, you could easily afford that plane ticket out in an emergency. You can't eat gold, you can't eat silver. Nope. But as I've said 1,000 times, you can sell it for a massive amount of money in a situation like this. Their official ratio, their dollar to ours, it's 10 to 1. The reality on the streets, you try to go and do that, I've got some US dollars, you'll get 1,000 plus Venezuelan dollars, not 10 to 1. As we write about the risks of this is not him speaking, but as we write about the risks of our over-indebted economy, of our unsustainable fossil fuel dependent energy policies, and our accelerating depletion of key resources, it's not a far leap to start worrying about the potential for a coming degradation of our modern lifestyle, or even the possibility of a full-blown societal collapse. Sadly, collapse is not just a theoretical worry for a growing number of people around the world. They're living with it right now. This week, we catch up with Fernando, or Fairfall, Aguirre, who began blogging during the hyperinflationary destruction of Argentina's economy in 2001. And then it kind of recovered a little bit, and then boom, happened again. Now he's gone, so he doesn't have to deal with it. and has since dedicated his professional career to educating the public about his experiences and observations of its lingering aftermath. He is the author of Surviving the Economic Collapse and sees many parallels between the path that led to Argentina's decline and the similar one most countries in the West, including the U.S., are currently on. Since our 2011 interview with him, a case study in how an economy collapses, Fairfall has successfully relocated his family to Europe. So that lets me know, okay, since 2011, he was able to get to Europe. So, and again, I remember reading his stuff. I want to say maybe 2007, 2008, possibly. Given Fernando his first-hand experience with living through and eventually escaping economic collapse in South America, we asked him to offer his insider's perspective on the current crisis in Venezuela, as well as the devolving situation in Brazil. The greatest points to keep in mind is overwhelming corruption. People get lost on what exactly went wrong in Argentina, in Venezuela, or what's happening right now in Brazil. What they all have in common is that the people in charge had no real interest in doing things right. They really didn't care about destroying the country. They just cared about filling their pockets as much as possible. This is what he's saying now. Think of Venezuela this way. You have a country where water is more expensive than gasoline. What sense does that make? I mean, you had Hugo Chavez walking down the street pointing his finger saying, nationalize this and nationalize that. And when he was saying nationalize, what he was saying was steal this. He didn't have any great plans or political grandeur going on in his mind. He just wanted to steal as much as he could. I know for a fact that they're slaughtering one another in the streets right now in Venezuela. For at least 3 years, it's been a case of out-of-control crime and corruption over there. It's not getting better anytime soon unless something changes on a deeper level. For the average middle-class person in Venezuela, educated and still holding on to a good job, he needs 2 years of wages to buy a single plane ticket in his own currency. He needs to work for 2 full years to buy one single plane ticket. He's stuck there. The problem is that he waited too long to leave. That's something important that I write about often. You have to know when to leave. I got to stop for a second. Actually, no, there's just 2 more paragraphs, and then I'm going to get back to that, because that's the end of this, and then you can watch the video if you want and listen to it. You needed to leave Venezuela at least 3 or 4 years ago. Now you're getting to the point where you're stuck there. The official exchange rate between the U.S. and the Bolivar is 1 to 10. But unofficially, which is the real one you experience, is more like 1 to 1,000. So they basically are starving you to death through a completely devalued currency, which is what you're getting paid in. Basically, needed to find ways of leaving the country by any means possible. What I would do if I was in Venezuela right now, I would leave on foot. I would leave any way I could because it's not safe. I know people that have killed people surviving Venezuela. I actually know guys that had to do that to live. You can't even find some land and grow your own food. You cannot do that when you have the government stealing it from you. It's a no-win situation, he says. I just want to mention one little tiny thing about old John Teeter, the time traveler guy, because it just hit me as I finished that. He talks about I forgot what the question was, but the answer that John Teeter gave was something like, even a farmer can only take so much before he decides to run in the woods and shoot back. Something like that. In the context, whatever, from what I remember in the context, to me it was, you're a farmer, you're trying to I don't want to be involved in all this, let me just do my thing, and the government that's ours, you can have that little bit left. Well, hold on, this whole land is mine, and I can't survive off that little bit. Sorry, we need all that. That's your little bit, have a nice day. If you got a problem with it, ultimately we're going to shoot each other. That's how I interpreted that. So this is essentially what he's saying. You can't even find some land and grow your own food. You cannot do that when you have the government stealing it from you. It's a no-win situation. You just have got to leave. So getting back to where I stopped for a second, where he said you have to know when to leave. You wait too long to leave, you should leave. So here's what I would say to that. Now, this man, Fairfall, very good head on his shoulders, very intelligent, saw stuff coming, made his moves, did what he had to do. Fantastic. But he went to what I believe is Spain. Heads up, the audio quality of this podcast is not at our usual standards due to the phone conditions in Spain where we managed to contact Fernando. Spain is another country that's a walking dead man, just like these other South American countries, just like Italy's going to be, Greece already is. You already saw some other ones over there. So in this instant, imagine doing what he did. I had this foresight to see this. I prepared. I saved up. I was able to get out of the country. I now make a decent living talking about this stuff and do things in Spain or wherever he's at. And then all of a sudden, EU collapses, Euro collapses, Spain, massive civil unrest. And he's sitting there saying, oh my God, I got away from this. I thought I got away from this. And now it's here again. Oh, what do I do? For those of you who live in America thinking the same thing, I better get out now or I want to go. Where are you going to go? This problem is going to be everywhere. It's just at Argentina, Brazil, and badly Venezuela right now. I think we're a tiny, tiny bit naive to think, even to suggest at all, this is America. That'll never happen here. This man lived through a country. Argentina was not some third world country. It may be kind of like it now. A lot of these countries you hear about, just like Greece, not even a chance it was a third world country. These are over-indebted and politically corrupt to the core countries. All these countries, just like Gerald Celente said when he got screwed over by MF Global, I'm leaving this freaking rotten, corrupt country. I'm getting the hell out of here. I'm going to go find another country to live in. I can't take it anymore. This is disgusting. And he left. He checked that country, checked that country, checked that country over there, checked that country, checked that country. He came back. And in his interview on his way back, once he got back, he said, I found something that made me come back. What was that? Every country I went to has the same problems we have. They're over indebted. They have these things called politicians who are massively corrupt, backdoor deals, side deals, you name it, just like we see here. Too big to fail, too big to jail. They had it all. He said, so I got to come back to my own country, and for that matter. And he said, you know what? I'm not leaving. That's it. I'm staying, and I'm going to take the fight here. We'll fight here, and he mentioned he was going to do something in, some historical place. There's going to be a big meeting, and I think it was a while ago. He already had it. But he realized you can't run from it. You're going to have to face it. So that's why I preach precious metals, big food storage, so that when it comes here, you can deal with it in some kind of decent manner where it doesn't hurt you too bad. That's all I can say. So I'm going to link this for sure in this video because I think you want to hear this one. Take care.